Welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we're going to create a client in Python that will communicate with the server we created in C++. Okay, so to do that, you open your terminal, and then you go to the workspace. The workspace is Total src, and then the name of the package is Total Control. So inside of this, we still go to the script. That is where we store our Python files. Now we can create a Python executable and call it stop robot client. So let's just call it stop robot client. And that is it. Oh no, you see the mistake? Okay, I'm just going to remove it now. rm stop robot client. Okay, all right, so what we want to create is stop robot client.py because it's a Python file. So .py. All right, so we have stop robot client.py. The next thing is to make it an executable. chmod plus x stop robot client. All right, now we can go back to the workspace. Now from the workspace, we open VS Code. Interesting. Okay, so this is our script, stop robot client, and we can start writing the client file. Remember, if you started your Rust program with CMake and you're using the C++ for CMake, that is why you have to put in the shebang. But in case you just write in the Python file and you didn't use CMake, you used Python to compile, you do not need to put the shebang. So we just have to put a shebang here, which is this, and then usr/bin/env environment, and then Python. Okay, so Python 3. All right, now the first thing you want to do after that is to import your necessary libraries. The Rust client library for Python is rclpy, and then from there you import the node from rclpy.node, then you import node. Okay, so the next thing is to bring in our custom service file. So we say to bring in custom service file is similar the way you do for messages. So we're just gonna say total control dot srv, and then we import stop. Remember, the name of the file is stop, and then we create a class. So this time let's call our class client. Okay, the other time it was service, so this time it's gonna be client, and then we pass in the node. Remember, the next thing is to create a constructor, def underscore init underscore self. So we're basically creating a constructor just like we did in the C++. So this constructor is gonna handle the name of the node. So super dot underscore init, and then we have the name of the node. So we're going to call this node stop robot client. So that's going to be the name of the node, stop robot client. Then we've created client itself, self.client, just like we did server for the C++. We're going to create a client. This is self dot create client. Remember, the node is the entry point, so the self here is referring to the node. So self.create client, Then you pass in the type of the client, or the type, the message type, or the service type we are using, which is stop. And then the next thing is the name of the server we want to communicate to. Remember, it's called stop robot service. Stop robot service. Let's check, is that what we did? Stop robot. This is a C++ file, and we call it, okay, stop robot service. All right, so because you need to have the same name. If it's not the same name, it won't communicate with the same service, and it's not going to work. Okay, so what we now want to do is to say, while not client wait. So basically what we're saying is that the client, while we are not able to get information within a second, or while the client is not able to get information within a second, then we want to say timeout is equal to 1.0. So that's a second, 1.0. So we want to say, oh, something must be wrong. So, but before we even say something must be wrong, we still want to put a further check and say, if we are not able to communicate with ROS client for Python, ROS client, if we are not able to communicate with ROS clients for Python, yeah, so then we want to say that interrupted while waiting for service. So we just put self dot get logger, and then, you know, it's kind of different from the way you do it in C++. Get logger, and then the information that you want to put there is interrupted while waiting for the service. So interrupted while waiting for the service, and then it's gonna say exiting, you know, I'm just gonna quit. So that's what it's saying. And then we say else, you know, what if it's not, ROS is still working, it's not that ROS is not working, but it's the service that we are not able to get. So else we're going to say service not available, waiting again. So self, you want to log again, get logger, and then get logger info. So you put in the string service not available, waiting again. All right, that's fine. So now that we have that, the next thing we want to do is to just do self dot request is equal to stop dot request. Okay, so basically we're taking the stop. Remember, it has two parts, the response and the request. So we want to take the request, which is the way you can access it is to call stop and then use dot operator to access the request. So it says stop the request, and then we store it inside inside request. Okay, so we're gonna use it later, that's why we're doing that. So let's go back and create a function that and call it send request. Okay, remember, this is the client, and it's the client that is going to send information, like make a request to the server, and the server is going to take the request and work according to it. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make the request 0. So we want to take the request dot front wheel, and I think I should explain something again. Stop is an instance, or stop dot request is an instance. What is inside stop dot request is this. It's these two files, two variables, the front wheel and the rear wheel. That's what is inside stop.request. What is inside stop.response is stop robot. Okay, so back to the code. So it's an instance. So when we create an instance of stop.request and we call that instance request, it means request has the privilege to access these two variables inside stop.request. Okay, you get that? So that is why we now want to initialize them to 0. We want to set them to 0. Remember, the default values are 20 and 15. So we want to set it to 0. And then, because we want to stop the robot, okay, we make it 0. And change this to the rear wheel. And I will make the rear wheel also 0. So after that, we say self thought result. Okay, result is equal to. So basically, we now want to call the client. So this is where we do the client calling. So remember, it's an asynchronous service. Okay, so we now say self.request. Now, what we're saying is, with the information of this request, then we want to call the service asynchronously. And when we call the service, it's going to get a response from our server and store whatever the response is from our server, store it inside result. So that's what we want to do. So it stores it inside result. Okay, then we go to another line, which is the main. We create a main function which takes the args none. So what is our main function gonna do? Our main function, first of all, is gonna initialize our node. Okay, and then it's gonna say args is equal to args. So it's gonna initialize. So the next thing is to create an instance of the class. So we're gonna create an instance of the class and call it stop client, which is basically an instance of the class. So what we're saying here is that we have a class called client node, and we are creating an instance of this class called stop client. It means that stop client that we just created can access whatever is inside the class. So it has privilege because it's an instance of that class. So we can say stop client dot. Now look at send request. So we're just going to say send request. So basically, stop client is an instance of the class client. So stop client has privilege or access using the dot operator. It has access to this function. So whenever we say stop client dot send request, it's gonna run line 19 to 21. Okay, that's what we're saying. So after running line 19 to 21, then we say while Ross is okay, meaning while Ross py dot okay, while Ross is running, we want you to do some stuffs. The first thing is we wanted to spin the node. Spin the node called stop client. Remember, it's an instance of the class, so it has the node in it. So want to spin stop client. When you spin stop client, then it should return something. It should return something. So we're going to say stop client dot result dot done. Now the done is a keyword in the ROS. So we are not the one creating the done. So we're saying stop client and then get the result if it is true. So if it is true, so it's gonna return true if the client worked, or if the client is able to communicate with the server to get a response, it's gonna return true. So if it returns true, then we want to use that information to do something. So we're just going to create a try and except. So we're going to say try, then response is equal to stop client dot result dot result. Okay, so it's gonna get the result. Now the result here is this result in line 22, while this other result is different. This other result is to get the result of the result of the from the server. This is get the result from the server. So this is the client getting the results from the server. So when it gets the result from the server, then we can create an exception, say except exception as E. So we can then stop clients Now you will notice something. We say stop client dot get logger. We cannot use the self again, unlike this place where we use self dot get logger, because we are already inside the constructor and we are accessing the node directly. But immediately we created this is acting like the node, so it's going to say stop dot, because the get logger needs the node to be able to input log information, or to be able to log information. So we're going to say the stop client, which is the node, and then the get logger, and then we have info and whatever information we want to pass. So it's going to say field to call service. Okay, field to call service, and then we're passing, the exception. Now that's that is how you put in. This is a placeholder, and this placeholder will be replaced by whatever E is returning. That is what the placeholder will be. Okay, say else stop client dot get logger so else we're saying you should return the right thing. So stop robot and then we put a string, response dot stop robot. Remember, the response is this, which is stop robot, and it's gonna give us back response.stop-robot. Okay, then we put break. So it's going to break out of the code. From there, we can now say stop underscore client dot destroy. We want to destroy the node. We want to destroy the node and then shut down the node. Now the shutdown is just for when the shutdown is called. When shutdown is called, then we go to the main function. If underscore is the main is equal to main, then we want to call main. Okay, so now let me quickly brush over again. So we have this here, stop client being an instance of client. So because it's an instance of client, we can access whatever is under it, which is send request is one of them. And when you run send request, it's gonna turn the front wheel to 0, the rear wheel to 0, and it's gonna make an asynchronous call. This is a service call, which is asynchronous. And the way you call a service is that you need to pass in the argument for, you need to pass in the parameter for, or the argument for the request. Okay, so you need to have the request inside of here. So it's going to take the request and use it to send, it's going to send the request to the server, and you know, it's going to store whatever happens inside result. Okay, so that is what this line 27 is going to do. And then it's going to spin the node. When it returns true, that means if it's able to get something from the server, it's going to return true. And then if it returns true, it should take the result, put it inside a variable called response, and then tell us what the response is. Else, if it's not able to get something from the server, from the service, or the server, yeah, so tell us failed to call service, and then we destroy the node. So we can just save this and then go to CMake list to finalize our things. So we have a CMake list here, so everything is set except here. So because it's a Python file, we go here, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and then we call it, the name is stop robot server, no, stop robot client, stop robot client. Okay, and then build our code. If anything is wrong, Qualcomm is going to tell us. Still building. Okay, we have an issue. No such file. Stop robot client. Stop .py. Forgot to append the suffix .py. All right, let's build again. Yeah, beautiful, everything is fine. So this time we can now run the server. Okay, we're gonna have the server here and say, let's source our workspace, and then I'm gonna source here too. All right, so now that we've sourced, let's run the 2 um, throttle control, and then we have the stop robot server. So remember, the server must be running before you can make a request. And then here we have ROS2 run throttle control, and then we have the stop robot client. So when we call this, we should get a response. Yeah, and you can see it says front wheel 0 meters per second, rear wheel 0 meters per second, robot stop true. We can get the same thing here, robot stop true. So let's call it again. I can see that is how you can create a custom service that you can use to quickly stop your robot. Let's say, for instance, you're trying to create an emergency stop, but this side now it's on the software side, whereby your robot is it's running and moving around, and it's trying to bump into something, but you have the access to quickly stop the robot remotely, and then you can just call a service, and then a service to stop the robot, and it's just gonna send in 0 meters per second directly to your wheels, and the robot is just gonna stop. Okay, so that is how you set up a custom service in ROS.